From the Times and the Sunday Times, this is The Story. I'm Luke Jones. Every year, thousands of men donate their sperm, giving women and families across the world a chance to have a baby. And usually, almost all involved never meet. Usually. That wasn't the case in today's story. Almost 30 years after her brother donated his sperm, Helen Down found herself sitting in her parents' garden, waiting to meet the niblings she never knew she had. So what exactly happened at this rather unusual family reunion? And how did these new family members unlock an even bigger mystery? Helen Down reads her piece from this weekend's Times magazine.
In June 2024, I sat in my parents' sunny garden. The day was perfect, save for one small interruption. We were about to meet two strangers, Leo Westland and Lucy Hilton-Jones. They shared our bloodline, but not our history. The best we could hope for was small talk and a swift exit. Yet the moment I caught sight of their eerily familiar dimples, I saw our shared DNA written all over their faces. And when we began chatting, it was clear the connection wasn't merely skin deep. Leo and Lucy, both 33, are the niece and nephew I didn't know I had. Not until my brother, Richard, had made a confession a few months earlier. In 1992, studying for a master's in artificial intelligence at Cardiff University, he had a brief side hustle as a sperm donor. For his efforts, he received £5 per donation, barely enough for 2 pints. As anonymity was guaranteed, there would be no repercussions. Back then, no one predicted that DNA tests and genealogy would become commonplace. Until Richard's confession, I thought I had 4 niblings. My sister's only child and the 3 fathered by Richard, who've requested anonymity. In 2024, that number ballooned to 18. The extra 14 comprise Leo and Lucy, plus a dozen unknowns confirmed through the donor-sibling link, the Human Fertilisation and Embryology Authority register that helps donor-conceived adults find genetic siblings. Richard, now 58, put this little sideline to the back of his mind until he signed up to MyHeritage in 2023. On the brink of retiring, he had plans to use his free time to research our family tree. His first connection wasn't a random 4th cousin, but a 49.9% DNA match. In other words, a dead cert offspring. Yet none of his 3 children had taken a DNA test. Flummoxed, he began racking his brains. Then it hit him. His sperm donor past had finally caught up with him. As an NHS psychologist who's worked with adopted children, he understood how life-changing it is to know your biological roots. So he sent the match, a mysterious entity called Leo, a deliberately casual message.
Hi. I've recently taken a DNA test with MyHeritage, and we have a match. Would you like to know more?
His message went unanswered. Unbeknown to Richard, Leo had swapped to using Ancestry, the site where he'd found his half-sister Lucy earlier in 2023. Both only children born to single mothers, they had long since made peace with the impossibility of completing their biological puzzles. This impossibility, though, became achievable with the advent of DNA testing and genealogy sites. Leo and Lucy are both confident go-getters. Not knowing their biological beginnings was inconvenient rather than devastating. For Leo, finding his father would mean meeting his future self and his future hairline. For Lucy, the motivation was less clear. It's perhaps no coincidence she joined Ancestry as she turned 30. Milestones can, consciously or otherwise, trigger such quests. After chatting online, Leo and Lucy took the bold step of meeting in person. On paper, they're polar opposites. Leo is an army officer who's studying for a master's in applied statistics at Oxford. Lucy, co-founder of the Green Fingers production company, is an actress, director and film producer. It's a classic STEM versus creative clash. Yet when they met, it became clear they had much in common. Not just the same smiles and habit of clicking their fingers when nervous, but the same values and interests, an insatiable appetite for an adventure. Deciding that finding their father would be a unifying mission, the pair went full Holmes and Watson. After months of dead ends, in December 2023, Lucy found a strong DNA match on Ancestry. A possible half-sister? The age gap put paid to that. Then it dawned on them, this must be their paternal grandmother, aka Richard's mother, aka my mother. So Leo logged back into all his old genealogy apps, and there was Richard's message. They soon began exchanging cautious messages. After a few months, they took the plunge and met in Swindon, a midpoint. Leo and Lucy travelled together on the train. They'd barely disembarked before Richard bounded over and wrapped them in a bear hug. There followed a "what do we do now" moment. So they did what all Brits do when they need to dissolve their awkwardness. They went to the pub. When Leo asked the barmaid how she thought they knew each other, she replied, without hesitation, they were family. With decades to unpack, by the end of the night, they realised they'd barely scratched the surface. What could have been one and done turned into the launchpad for future meetings. From coastal walks to camping trips. Richard and Leo have even holidayed together. After a week of surfing, beers and bonding in Fuerteventura, the relationship turned from cautious to comfortable. So comfortable that their latest outing was an exuberant night that started in Leo's Oxford College dinner and ended in being thrown out of a nightclub. What was a moment of casual recognition for that Swindon barmaid felt more seismic for me as I sat in my parents' garden. Until that point, I confess, I didn't have a huge amount of interest beyond thinking, typical Ricardo. In truth, meeting Leo and Lucy was incidental. I'd only turned up to surprise my dad for Father's Day. Although I'd expected zero common ground, Leo and Lucy ended up feeling like potential kindred spirits. Lucy has written many scripts, including a comedy about being a donor-conceived child, and Leo casually mentioned that he's written for a newspaper. It wasn't only our mutual interest in writing, though. We got stuck into everything from globe-trotting surf escapades to psychedelic therapy. My mind did backflips wondering if these shared worldviews were written into our DNA, or whether this was a self-selecting situation where Leo and Lucy's values stem from having parents as liberal as my own. Becoming a single mother to a donor-conceived child was fairly radical in the early 90s. So radical that Leo's mother had to write a letter to her fertility clinic, pleading her suitability. Their mothers are trailblazers, and not solely for the way they chose to build their families. Between them, they have set up charities, cycled around China, and motorbiked the length of Vietnam. Being nurtured by such spirited women must partially explain why Leo and Lucy are both so broad-minded. Yet their shared similarities with Richard also underscore nature's role. Studies of twins separated at birth demonstrate that common traits develop over time, regardless of upbringing. After getting to know Leo and Lucy, my brother is experiencing something similar firsthand. Of course, he was already aware that genetics can shape behaviour and attitude. Yet, as a clinical psychologist, accepting that nature may overshadow nurture, it's been a journey. It's clear Leo and Lucy are high achievers, and my brother, with his doctorate in clinical psychology, isn't too shabby on this front either. It's not a huge leap to think Richard's genes may have played a partial role in Leo and Lucy's academic success, alongside their mothers, of course. They may have also inherited another trait. As a child, Leo received an ADHD diagnosis long before such assessments were mainstream. Although Lucy received her diagnosis in 2024, she too ticked every box and is, in her own words, off the scale. With ADHD estimated to be 80% inheritable, and neither Leo and Lucy's mothers showing symptoms, the finger of suspicion points only one way. Finding Leo and Lucy has made us admit that undiagnosed ADHD smothers our family tree like a rampant moss. Ironically, in coming to us for biological answers, Leo and Lucy have given us the biggest one of all. For Richard, ADHD would explain many of his struggles. So he's begun the process of getting diagnosed. From lifelong insomnia to emotional dysregulation, impulsivity, impatience, and a propensity, as this sentence proves, for oversharing, I too have many traits. So I'm also considering seeking a diagnosis, especially after Lucy described herself as restless and spontaneous. It was a hard relate for me. When Lucy told me about her tricky teen years, it was an even harder relate. At school, she was a difficult student, although she excelled academically. In a strikingly similar vein, I too hated school and had a habit of getting on teachers' bad sides. I also identified with the way Lucy expended so much energy on masking her symptoms, classic behaviour for girls with ADHD. My experience was not dissimilar, and perhaps explains why I was labelled a difficult child. Lucy says she has no issue with potentially inheriting ADHD from Richard. Plus, although she's no fan of the ADHD as a superpower lobby, she credits much of her creativity and openness to her neurodiversity, adding that life is never boring. Even so, it's not always been easy to be a donor-conceived child. At primary school, when peers asked about her father, Lucy would concoct lies about him directing Free Willy, her favourite film. From the age of 6, though, her mother began a relationship with a man who became a father figure to Lucy. In contrast, Leo hasn't had such a figure, which may explain why he spends a little more time with Richard. Well, that and the fact that Lucy lives far away and is now heavily pregnant with the next addition to our unconventional family. What has been a purely positive experience for most in our family is, perhaps inevitably, harder to process for others. Possibly because of concerns that Richard doesn't have the time and emotional space for more children, or perhaps because, for some, sperm donation has grubby, even shameful connotations. Or because there's an awareness that things can go horribly wrong. DNA tests can shatter identity if they reveal someone is not the product of mum and dad, but of long-held secrets and lies to do with hushed infertility or infidelity. As Leo and Lucy have always known their origin story, there were no bombshells to destroy the path that led to Richard. It helps that both their mothers were supportive. In fact, they were overjoyed when their children discovered Richard. Even more overjoyed that he was open to being discovered. Burdened by the prospect of her daughter never having her full biological picture, it's been a huge relief for Lucy's mother, who says she now feels complete. It's a sentiment echoed by Leo's mother, who's immensely grateful to Richard for the gift of Leo and for our family's welcome. Extra heartwarming is the fact that Leo and Lucy's mothers are now becoming firm friends with mine. They found they're linked by much more than a bunch of cells stored in a fertility clinic. Although my mother hasn't biked around Asia, she too has travelled the world and once saved our entire family from a group of knife-wielding Mexicans. Yet more evidence that these are, whether by happy accident or self-selection, like-minded women who've created like-minded children. What of the remaining 12, though? The thought of them all appearing, unlikely as it may be, is overwhelming for everyone involved. With full adult lives, it's hard to make space for meaningful new connections. Yet because of his profession, Richard understands how vital it is for people to identify their biological roots. Likewise, Leo and Lucy. They may not have felt an aching need to find their father, but they've ended up getting more information and kinship than they could ever have imagined. So the trio have vowed to make time should more connections come forward. That said, it will be hard to replicate what they have. There's something extra special about being the first ones to find each other. There's no denying that true family bonds come from spending years of weathering life's highs and lows together. Yet 18 months on from meeting Leo and Lucy, I now understand there's something magical about sharing DNA, even when it's with a stranger. This remarkable, elegant, robust double helix doesn't solely record our biological blueprint. It's also the invisible thread that binds us together.
That was Times contributor Helen Down, and you can read her piece, What Happened When a Sperm Donor Met His Unknown Kids, in this weekend's Times magazine. That is it from us. The producer and sound designer today was Dave Creasey. The executive producer was Kate Ford. I'm Luke Jones. We'll be back tomorrow.